Little girl calls 911 and says, "He told me to open my mouth." Truth leaves everyone in tears. Before we dive into the story, drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. Enjoy the story. It was a Tuesday afternoon at the Meadowbrook Emergency Call Center when Riley Bennett's headset crackled with an incoming call. After 6 years as a 911 dispatcher, Riley had developed an almost supernatural ability to gauge the severity of a situation from the caller's first breath. This breath, however, was different. Small, shaky, and unmistakably young. 911, what's your emergency? Riley's trained, calm voice filled the line as her fingers hovered over her keyboard. Silence followed, then a small sniffle. Hello? This is 911, are you okay? Riley leaned forward in her chair, her back straightening as she signaled to her supervisor. Something about this call raised every professional alarm bell she possessed. I don't know if this is an emergency, came a whispered voice, a child's voice. But Ms. Peterson at school said to call if we're scared and nobody's helping. Riley's heart constricted. The voice couldn't belong to anyone older than 6 or 7. You did exactly the right thing, she reassured, keeping her voice gentle but confident. My name's Riley. Can you tell me your name? Sophia, the small voice replied. Sophia Watson. It's nice to meet you, Sophia. Can you tell me why you're scared right now? Another pause filled the line, longer this time. Riley could hear shallow breathing and what sounded like a television playing in the background. Sophia, are you still there, sweetheart? Yes. The word was barely audible. I'm alone. Daddy went out. He said he'd be right back, but there was a pause as if the child was thinking hard. After lunch. And now it's getting dark. Riley glanced at the clock on her computer screen. 5:47 p.m. She began typing information into the system while keeping her voice steady. You're being very brave, Sophia. Is there a way I can talk to your mom? Mommy's at work. She works a lot. The simple statement carried a weight of loneliness that made Riley's throat tighten. And did your daddy tell you where he was going? To get medicine, he said. The little girl's voice suddenly dropped to a whisper as if sharing a terrible secret. He told me to open my mouth. A chill ran through Riley's body. Something in the way Sophia said those words. There was fear there, confusion. Sophia, can you tell me what you mean by that? What happens when he tells you to open your mouth? The silence that followed stretched for several heartbeats. The medicine tastes bad. It burns. And then I get really sleepy. But I didn't take it today. I hid under my bed when I heard him getting the bottle. Riley maintained her professional composure, though her free hand had clenched into a fist. You're at home right now, right, Sophia? Can you tell me your address so I can send a police officer to check on you? As Sophia haltingly provided her address, Riley could hear the unmistakable sound of a door opening in the background. He's back, Sophia whispered, panic edging into her voice. I have to go. Sophia, wait, Riley began, but the line had already gone dead. For a moment, Riley sat frozen, the empty connection humming in her ear. Then she sprang into action, her fingers flying across the keyboard as she dispatched the closest available unit to the Watson residence. Officer Marcus Taylor, please respond to a welfare check at 1423 Pinecrest Avenue. Possible endangered child, female, approximately 6 years old. As she completed the dispatch, Riley made a silent promise to the frightened voice that had reached out for help. This time, someone would answer. Officer Marcus Taylor turned his patrol car onto Pinecrest Avenue, scanning the row of modest homes that lined the quiet street. Dispatch had said 1423. There it was, a small blue house with peeling paint and overgrown grass. Nothing about it screamed danger, but Marcus had learned long ago that trouble rarely advertised itself. As he parked at the curb, he noticed the curtains in a neighboring house flutter slightly. Someone was watching, yet no one had called until that little girl found the courage to dial 911 herself. Marcus approached the front door, his footsteps crunching on the neglected walkway. A child's bicycle lay on its side in the yard, a pink helmet hanging from the handlebars. He knocked firmly. Police officer. Anyone home? The door opened almost immediately, revealing a disheveled man in his mid-30s with bloodshot eyes and a day's worth of stubble. The smell of alcohol wafted from inside. "Robert Watson?" Marcus asked, keeping his voice professional. The man blinked in confusion. "Yeah, that's me. What's this about?" "We received a call from this residence. I'm here to conduct a welfare check." Marcus studied the man's face, watching for any telling reaction. "Is your daughter home?" Robert's expression shifted from confusion to irritation. "Sophia, she's fine. She's just playing in her room." He attempted to straighten his rumpled shirt. "Look, officer, I just stepped out for a few minutes to pick up some things. There's no problem here." Marcus nodded, his expression neutral. "I still need to see your daughter, sir. It's standard procedure when we receive a call." A tense silence hung between them before Robert reluctantly stepped aside, allowing Marcus to enter. The inside of the house told its own story: dishes piled in the sink, empty takeout containers on the coffee table, a general sense of a home barely being maintained. Not criminal neglect, but concerning nonetheless. "Sophia," Robert called out, his voice suddenly softer. "Can you come out here, please? There's someone who wants to make sure you're okay." No response. "She's probably hiding," Robert said with a nervous laugh. "She does that sometimes, plays these little games." Marcus followed Robert down a short hallway to a bedroom door decorated with faded butterfly stickers. Robert knocked gently. "Sophia, honey, you need to come out now." When silence continued to answer, Robert turned the knob and pushed the door open. The small bedroom was empty, the window closed, no child in sight. Marcus felt his pulse quicken. Where else might she be? A flash of genuine worry crossed Robert's face as he called out again, louder this time. "Sophia, this isn't funny, come out right now." Moving swiftly, Marcus checked under the bed, in the closet, and behind the curtains. Nothing. He was about to check the bathroom when he noticed something. A small worn teddy bear lying on the floor beside the bed, as if dropped in haste. He picked it up, and as he did, he heard the faintest sound, a sniffle coming from within the bedroom. Marcus turned slowly, scanning the room again. Then he saw it, a tiny makeshift fort of blankets in the corner of the room, nearly invisible behind a bookshelf. Marcus approached slowly, kneeling down several feet away. "Sophia, my name is Officer Marcus. I'm here because you were very brave and called for help. You're not in any trouble." The blanket shifted slightly, and a small face peered out, wide-eyed, tear-streaked, clutching a phone to her chest. "The lady on the phone," Sophia whispered. "She said someone would come." "That's right," Marcus said gently, holding up the teddy bear. "Is this your friend? Does he have a name?" Sophia nodded, reaching out tentatively for the stuffed animal. "His name is Guardian, because he watches over me when I'm scared." As Sophia emerged from her hiding place, Marcus noticed how thin her arms were, how dark the circles under her eyes. Behind him, Robert stood frozen in the doorway, his face a complicated mixture of shame and fear. "Sophia," Marcus said softly, "would you like to tell me why you called 911 today?" The little girl looked up at her father, then back at Marcus, her small fingers tightening around Guardian's worn paw. "Because," she whispered, "I didn't want to open my mouth anymore." The social services office always seemed too bright and too cold at the same time. Marcus sat on a plastic chair outside the interview room, watching through the glass window as Sophia clutched Guardian to her chest. Across from her sat Gabriela Martinez, a veteran social worker, whose kind eyes belied her fierce dedication to protecting children. "She hasn't said much since we left the house," Marcus told his captain over the phone, keeping his voice low. "The father claims he was just giving her cold medicine to help her sleep, but something doesn't add up." In the interview room, Gabriela was showing Sophia a dollhouse, trying to establish rapport. The little girl's responses were minimal. A nod here, a shake of the head there. "Officer Taylor." A voice interrupted Marcus's thoughts. He looked up to see Riley Bennett, the 911 dispatcher, standing in the hallway with uncertainty written across her face. "Ms. Bennett? This is unexpected," Marcus said, ending his call and standing to greet her. Riley shifted her weight from one foot to the other. I know this isn't protocol, but I couldn't stop thinking about her. That call. She trailed off, then squared her shoulders. How is she? Scared, withdrawn. Marcus gestured toward the window. The social worker's trying to get her to open up. Riley peered through the glass, her expression softening at the sight of Sophia. I brought something, she said, pulling a small backpack from behind her. It's just some coloring books, a new set of crayons, and, she hesitated, another bear, in case she needs a friend when Guardian needs a rest. Marcus's surprise must have shown on his face because Riley quickly added, Too much? I should have checked first. No, Marcus reassured her with a genuine smile. Actually, it might be exactly what she needs right now, something that's just hers. Inside the interview room, Gabriella was making little progress. Sophia sat rigidly in her chair, responding only with the briefest answers. Sophia, Gabriella said gently, you're not in any trouble. We just want to understand what's happening so we can help you and your family. The little girl's eyes remained fixed on Guardian's worn face. Daddy said not to tell anyone about our special medicine time. It's our secret. Gabriella exchanged a glance with Marcus through the window. It's okay to talk about secrets that make you feel scared or uncomfortable, she explained. Sophia's fingers tightened around her bear. But then Daddy will get in trouble. Sometimes grown-ups need help too, Gabriella said. Just like children do. A knock on the door interrupted them. Marcus entered with Riley trailing behind him, carrying the colorful backpack. Sophia, Marcus said. This is Ms. Riley. She's the lady you talked to on the phone. Recognition flickered in Sophia's eyes as Riley knelt down to her level. Hello, Sophia, Riley said warmly. I'm so glad to meet you in person. You were very brave to call for help. For the first time since leaving her home, Sophia's posture relaxed slightly. You sound the same, she observed quietly. Riley smiled. I brought you something. She set the backpack on the table and unzipped it. I thought you and Guardian might like some new things. As Riley revealed the contents, coloring books, crayons, a small blanket, and a new teddy bear with a red ribbon around its neck, Sophia's eyes widened. Hesitantly, she reached for the new bear. What will you name this one? Riley asked. Sophia considered this seriously. Hope, she decided, looking at the bear's friendly face. Because you brought her to me when I was scared. Something shifted in the room's atmosphere. Sophia placed Guardian and Hope side by side on the table, then reached into the backpack for the crayons and a coloring book. As she flipped through the pages, a folded piece of paper fell out from between the pages, a blank sheet that Riley had included. Without prompting, Sophia took the paper and a crayon and began to draw. The adults watched in silence as lines formed into a house, a small figure with long hair that must be Sophia, and two larger figures, one standing tall, one slouched in what appeared to be a chair. When she finished, Sophia pushed the drawing toward Gabriella. This is my house, she explained, pointing to each figure. This is me. This is Daddy when he's angry, and this is Mommy when she's sad, which is a lot. Then in a moment of startling initiative, Sophia flipped the paper over and began drawing again, this time creating a crude bottle and what looked like a spoon. This is the special medicine, she said quietly. It makes my tummy hurt and my head fuzzy. Daddy says it helps me be good and quiet when Mommy needs silence. The three adults exchanged glances as Sophia continued drawing, her small hands moving with purpose now that she'd found a way to express what words couldn't. Sophia, Gabriella asked carefully, would it be okay if we keep this drawing? It might help us understand how to make things better. The little girl nodded, then looked directly at Riley. Will you stay? Guardian trusts you. Riley glanced at Gabriella, who gave a subtle nod of approval. I'll stay as long as you need, Riley promised, pulling up a chair beside Sophia. Now, would you like to color together while we talk some more? As Sophia nodded and selected a page from the coloring book, Marcus stepped outside to make a call. It was time to contact Sophia's mother and arrange for a medical evaluation. Guardian and Hope sat side by side on the table, silent witnesses to the beginning of a long journey toward healing. The Watson home looked different in daylight, somehow smaller, more fragile. like a house made of paper that could collapse with the slightest breeze. Marcus stood in the kitchen, a search warrant in hand, as two other officers carefully documented the contents of the medicine cabinet. "Found something, sir," Officer Chen called, holding up a bottle with no label. "And there are several prescription containers here, some in Mr. Watson's name, some in Mrs. Watson's. None for the child." Marcus nodded, making notes. The pieces were beginning to form a picture, though one he didn't want to see. The sound of a car door slamming outside drew his attention. Through the window, he watched a woman hurrying up the walkway, mid-30s, wearing scrubs, her face etched with worry. Emma Watson had arrived. "Where is she? Where's my daughter?" Emma demanded as she burst through the front door. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her hair hastily pulled back. "They called me at work. Said Sophia was taken by social services. What's going on?" Marcus stepped forward, maintaining a professional calm. "Mrs. Watson, I'm Officer Taylor. Your daughter is safe and being cared for right now. She called 911 yesterday while she was home alone." Emma's hand flew to her mouth. Alone, but Robert was supposed to... Her voice trailed off as she took in the scene. Police officers in her home, the open medicine cabinet, the general disarray of a household barely holding together. "Where's Robert now?" she asked, her voice smaller. "He's at the station, answering some questions," Marcus explained gently. "Mrs. Watson, we need to talk about some concerns regarding Sophia's well-being." Emma sank into a kitchen chair, her body suddenly seeming too heavy to hold upright. "I work double shifts at the hospital," she said almost to herself. "Robert lost his job at the factory 6 months ago. We've been struggling." Marcus sat across from her. "Mrs. Watson." "Emma, Sophia told us about special medicine time. Can you explain what that might be?" Emma looked genuinely confused. "Special medicine? Sophia doesn't take any regular medications. She's been healthy, apart from seeming tired lately. But I thought that was just..." She stopped abruptly, a terrible realization dawning on her face. "Robert sometimes gives her cold medicine at night when she has trouble sleeping," Emma said slowly, as if working through a puzzle. "He said it helps her rest when I need quiet after night shifts." Marcus watched her carefully. "How often would you say this happens?" Emma's fingers twisted together nervously. "I don't know exactly. We've been like ships passing lately. I work, he watches Sophia, I sleep, he goes out looking for work." Her voice cracked. "I thought we were managing." Officer Chen approached with the unmarked bottle. "We'll need to have this analyzed," she said quietly to Marcus. Emma stared at the bottle, then at the collection of prescription medications lined up on the counter. "Those are mine," she whispered, pointing to several orange containers. "For depression and anxiety. After I lost my mother last year, I just couldn't seem to find my way back. The doctor said it would help." The pieces clicked into place for Marcus. A family falling apart, a father struggling with unemployment and possibly addiction, a mother working herself to exhaustion while battling depression, and caught in the middle, a little girl forced to grow up too quickly. "Emma," Marcus said gently, "I think Robert may have been giving Sophia inappropriate substances, possibly your medications diluted in liquid or alcohol or both, to keep her quiet and manageable while you were working or sleeping." The color drained from Emma's face. "No," she whispered. "He wouldn't. He couldn't have." But the denial in her voice was already giving way to horrified understanding. "Is that why she's been so lethargic? So quiet?" Emma's voice shook. "I thought she was just sad. Like me." Marcus nodded grimly. "We'll know more after her medical evaluation, but based on what Sophia told us and what we're finding here..." He gestured to the collected evidence. Emma pressed her hands against her eyes. "I failed her," she whispered. "I was so caught up in surviving that I didn't see what was happening right in front of me." "Mrs. Watson," Officer Chen interjected kindly, "there's something else you should see." She held out Sophia's drawing. The house, the sad mother, the angry father, the bottle of special medicine. Emma took the paper with trembling hands. A single tear splashed onto the crayon lines as she traced her daughter's depiction of their broken home. "Where is she now?" Emma asked, her voice steadying with resolve. "I need to see her. I need to make this right. She's at Meadowbrook Children's Hospital, Marcus explained. Dr. Amelia Chen is evaluating her. She's in good hands, and there's a social worker named Gabriela Martinez who's been assigned to your case. Emma stood up, wiping her tears with determination. Take me to her, please. As they walked to the police car, Emma paused to look back at the house, their paper house with its peeling paint and secrets. In the sunlight, it looked like what it was. Not a home, but a place where 3 people had been slowly drowning, each in their own way. It wasn't always like this, Emma said softly. We used to be happy here. Marcus nodded, understanding that sometimes good people made terrible mistakes when life became too heavy to bear. Let's go see your daughter, he said gently. That's the first step toward making things right. Meadowbrook Children's Hospital was designed to feel less frightening. Walls painted with woodland creatures, colorful furniture in the waiting areas, and staff in cheerful patterned scrubs. But to Sophia, the examination room still felt alien and intimidating with its sterile white walls and strange equipment. Hello there, Sophia. I'm Dr. Chen, said a woman with kind eyes and a gentle smile, entering the room. I like your 2 bears. What are their names? Sophia hugged the stuffed animals closer. This is Guardian. He's been with me forever, and this is Hope. Ms. Riley gave her to me. Dr. Chen sat on a rolling stool, bringing herself to Sophia's eye level. Well, I'm very pleased to meet Guardian and Hope. Would they mind if I check how you're doing today? Sophia considered this seriously, then whispered something to her bears before nodding. They say it's okay. As Dr. Chen began her examination, Riley sat quietly in the corner of the room. She had stayed with Sophia through the whole process, a familiar face in a sea of strangers. How did you learn to call 911, Sophia? Doctor, Chen asked conversationally, while checking the little girl's eyes with a small light. Ms. Peterson taught us at school, Sophia replied. She said it's for emergencies when you're really scared and need help right away. That was very smart of you to remember, Dr. Chen praised, now listening to Sophia's heart. Sophia's small shoulders lifted in a shrug. I practiced the numbers when Daddy wasn't looking. I was scared to call, but Guardian said I should be brave. Doctor. Chen nodded, her expression warm even as her eyes registered professional concern at the child's slight tremor and unusual pupil response. Guardian gives very good advice. A soft knock at the door drew everyone's attention. Gabriela Martinez entered, followed by a woman whose face was a portrait of anguish and hope. Mommy? Sophia's voice was small, uncertain. Emma Watson stood frozen in the doorway, taking in the sight of her daughter. So small on the examination table, clutching her bears, eyes too serious for a child her age. Oh, Sophia, she whispered, rushing forward to kneel beside the examination table. I'm here now. I'm so sorry I wasn't there when you needed me. Sophia studied her mother's face. Are you mad at me for calling the police? No, sweetheart, no. Emma's voice broke as she gently stroked Sophia's hair. You did exactly the right thing. I'm proud of you for being so brave. As mother and daughter embraced, Dr. Chen quietly motioned for Riley and Gabriela to join her in the hallway. I've ordered comprehensive blood work, she said in a low voice, her professional demeanor now grave. Based on my preliminary examination, I'm concerned about possible liver function issues and other symptoms consistent with substance exposure. Gabriela nodded grimly. The father admitted to giving her just a little something to help her sleep. Claims it was only over-the-counter medicine. Dr. Chen's expression tightened. The blood tests will tell us more, but I'm seeing signs that suggest it may have been much more than that, and over an extended period. Inside the room, unaware of the serious conversation in the hallway, Sophia was showing Emma her new coloring book. Look, Mommy, she said, pointing to a page she'd already colored. Ms. Riley helped me make the sky purple instead of blue. She said sometimes it's okay to make things different than they're supposed to be. Emma smiled through her tears, a fierce determination building within her. She's absolutely right, sweetheart. And I promise you, things are going to be very different from now on. The hospital conference room felt too small for the weight of the conversation taking place inside it. Emma sat rigid in her chair, hands clasped so tightly her knuckles had turned white. Across from her, Dr. Chen and Gabriela Martinez exchanged glances before continuing. "Mrs. Watson," Dr. Chen said gently, "Sophia's blood tests show concerning levels of substances that shouldn't be in a child's system. The patterns we're seeing suggest this has been happening for some time." Emma's carefully composed facade began to crack. "What exactly did he give her?" "Doctor," Chen slid a folder across the table. "We found traces of your prescription medications, diluted but present. There were also indications of alcohol in her system." "Alcohol?" Emma's voice rose sharply. "He gave our 6-year-old daughter alcohol." "It appears to have been diluted," Dr. Chen clarified. "But yes, the tests are conclusive." Emma pressed her hands to her mouth, struggling to maintain composure. The mask she'd worn for months, the one that told the world she was managing, that her family was okay despite the struggles, was shattering piece by piece. "I worked night shifts," she whispered, more to herself than to the others. "I'd come home exhausted. Robert said he had everything under control, that Sophia was just being a typical moody child." She looked up, eyes brimming with tears. "How could I not have seen it?" Gabriela leaned forward. "Emma, depression can make it difficult to see what's happening around you. You were trying to keep your family afloat financially while battling your own mental health challenges." "That's no excuse," Emma said sharply. "She's my daughter. I should have protected her." "What's important now," Dr. Chen interjected, "is what happens going forward. Sophia will need support, medical, emotional, and psychological, and so will you." Emma straightened her shoulders. "Tell me what to do." "Whatever it takes, I'll do it." Gabriela nodded approvingly. "First, we need to discuss temporary placement for Sophia while we sort things out. She can't return home immediately, especially with your work schedule." "You're taking her away from me?" The last piece of Emma's mask fell away, revealing raw fear. "Not permanently," Gabriela assured her. "We have wonderful foster families who specialize in providing short-term care while parents get the support they need." "I could quit my job," Emma suggested desperately. "Move in with my sister." "Emma," Dr. Chen said softly, "you need time to address your own health too. This isn't just about Robert's actions. You mentioned being treated for depression. Are you currently following your treatment plan?" Emma's silence was answer enough. Outside the conference room, Riley sat with Sophia, who was coloring intently in her new book. The little girl looked up suddenly. "Is my mommy in trouble too?" she asked, her small voice filled with worry. Riley chose her words carefully. "No, sweetheart. Your mommy is just talking with the doctors about how to make things better for both of you." Sophia nodded, returning to her coloring. "I think she's sad a lot because she misses Grandma. After Grandma went to heaven, Mommy cried every day. Then she stopped crying, but she stopped smiling too." Riley felt her heart constrict at the child's perceptiveness. Inside the conference room, Gabriela was outlining the next steps. "We've identified a foster family with extensive experience, the Johnsons. They've provided a safe haven for many children in similar situations." "When can I see her?" Emma asked, wiping away tears. "You'll have supervised visits while you work with us on your case plan," Gabriela explained. "The goal is always family reunification when it's safe and healthy for the child." Emma nodded, finally understanding the full gravity of their situation. "And Robert?" "That will depend on the district attorney and whether charges are filed," Gabriela said carefully. "But regardless, he'll need to complete substantial treatment and parenting classes before any consideration of family reunification." As the meeting concluded, Emma paused at the door, steeling herself to face her daughter with this new reality. "Emma, Doctor," Chen said kindly, "this isn't the end of your family's story. It's a difficult chapter, but with the right help, you can write a better ending." Emma straightened her shoulders, determination replacing despair. "Sophia deserves nothing less," she said, and stepped out to face the long road ahead. Rain pattered against the windows of Pinewood Community Center as Emma sat in a circle with 7 other parents, all carrying their own invisible burdens. It had been 3 days since Sophia was placed with the Johnson family, and each hour away from her daughter felt like an eternity. "Would anyone like to share today?" asked Dr. Harriet Powell, the group facilitator. Her gentle voice carried authority earned through decades of helping families heal. Emma stared at her folded hands. She'd come to the support group at Gabriella's suggestion, but now that she was here, the words stuck in her throat. A woman across the circle spoke up. "I'm Lynn. It's been 6 months since my kids came home. Some days are still hard, but we're making progress." Others nodded encouragingly. Emma listened as each person shared snippets of their journeys, stories of mistakes, regret, and the slow climb toward redemption. "I'm Emma," she finally said when her turn came. "My daughter is in foster care because I wasn't paying attention to what was happening in my own home." Her voice trembled but didn't break. "I was so focused on keeping our life from falling apart financially that I didn't see it was already falling apart in every other way." Dr. Powell nodded. "That's a powerful insight, Emma. Many parents here have faced similar realizations." Meanwhile, across town, Officer Marcus sat across from Robert Watson in an interview room. The man looked smaller somehow, his earlier defensiveness replaced by a hollow resignation. "I never meant to hurt her," Robert said, staring at the table. "After I lost my job, I couldn't handle her crying. Emma would come home exhausted from her shifts, needing to sleep. Sophia would get upset, wanting attention, making noise. So you decided to medicate her?" Marcus kept his tone neutral despite his inner anger. Robert's shoulders slumped further. "It started with just a little children's medicine to help her nap. Then, when that stopped working as well..." He trailed off, shame etched in every line of his face. "You escalated to alcohol and Emma's prescription medications," Marcus finished for him. Robert nodded miserably. "I convinced myself it was just to help her sleep, to keep her calm. I didn't think..." He looked up, eyes red-rimmed. "Is she going to be okay?" "The doctors are taking good care of her," Marcus replied evenly. "But there will be consequences, Mr. Watson, for both her health and your actions." Back at the community center, Emma was speaking with Dr. Powell after the meeting. "I have my first supervised visit tomorrow," Emma said, anxiety evident in her voice. "What if she blames me? What if she's angry?" Dr. Powell smiled kindly. "Children are remarkably resilient and forgiving. But more importantly, this is your chance to begin rebuilding trust. Not with grand promises, but with consistent presence." Emma nodded, thinking of all the time she'd been physically present but emotionally absent in her daughter's life. "I've made an appointment with my doctor to revisit my depression treatment," she said with quiet determination. "And I've applied for family medical leave from the hospital." "Those are excellent first steps," Dr. Powell said approvingly. "Recovery isn't linear, Emma. There will be difficult days ahead. The question is, what will you do differently when those days come?" Emma looked out at the rain, thinking of Sophia. Was she watching the same raindrops from the Johnsons' windows? Was she scared? Did she understand what was happening? "Whatever it takes," Emma answered firmly. "I let the weight of our problems crush me before. I won't make that mistake again." As she stepped out into the rain without an umbrella, Emma felt the cool drops against her face, mingling with her tears. For the first time in months, she wasn't trying to hide her pain or push through it. Instead, she let herself feel it fully. The grief, the guilt, the fear, knowing that acknowledging these emotions was the first step toward healing. The weight of her choices had nearly broken her family apart. Now, the weight of new choices would determine if they could ever truly be whole again. Margaret Johnson had been fostering children for over 20 years, and in that time she'd learned that each child who came through her door carried their own unique story. Some arrived with shouts and tears, others with suspicious silence. Sophia Watson belonged to the latter category. "Would you like to see your room, dear?" Margaret asked, her silver hair catching the afternoon sunlight that streamed through the windows of the tidy suburban home. Sophia nodded, clutching guardian and hope to her chest as she followed the elderly woman up a carpeted staircase. The walls were lined with photographs, smiling children of various ages, many posing alongside Margaret and her husband Harold. "Are all these your kids?" Sophia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Margaret smiled gently. In a way, yes. They all stayed with us for a while, just like you're going to. Some for a few weeks, some for longer. The bedroom was simple but welcoming. A twin bed with a colorful quilt, a small desk by the window, and a bookshelf filled with children's books. A handmade welcome sign hung on the door with Sophia's name written in bright letters. How did you know my name before I came? Sophia asked, her curiosity momentarily overcoming her hesitation. Ms. Gabriella told us you were coming, Margaret explained, sitting on the edge of the bed. She also mentioned you liked to draw and color. From downstairs came the sound of a door opening and a child's laughter. Sophia tensed immediately. That's just Jenny, Margaret explained. She's staying with us too. She's 8, a bit older than you. Sophia clutched her bears tighter. Does she take special medicine too? Margaret's heart ached at the question, but she kept her expression warm. No, sweetheart. No one here will give you any medicine unless Dr. Chen says you need it, and even then, only the right kind, in the right amount. A small nod was Sophia's only response. That evening, dinner was a quiet affair. Jenny, a sprightly girl with braided hair and bright eyes, tried several times to engage Sophia in conversation, but received only one-word answers. Harold, a gentle giant of a man with a salt and pepper beard, told funny stories about the family's old basset hound, Wally, who snored loudly under the table. As Margaret was clearing the dishes, the doorbell rang. I'll get it, Harold called, making his way to the front door. Moments later, Riley Bennett stood in the kitchen doorway, a hesitant smile on her face. Ms. Riley! For the first time since arriving, animation lit up Sophia's features. Hi there, Sophia, Riley said warmly. I hope it's okay that I stopped by. I wanted to see how you're settling in. Margaret observed the interaction with interest. The connection between Sophia and the 911 dispatcher was evident, a small but crucial bridge of trust in a world that had suddenly become unpredictable for the child. Later, as Margaret tucked Sophia into bed, the little girl seemed troubled. When can I see my mommy? She asked, her small voice fragile in the dimly lit room. Tomorrow, Margaret assured her. She'll be coming for a visit in the afternoon. Sophia's fingers worried the edge of the quilt. Is my daddy in jail because of me? Margaret chose her words carefully. Your daddy is getting help for his problems, Sophia. None of what's happening is because of you. Grown-ups sometimes make mistakes, and then they need to fix those mistakes. But what if they can't be fixed? The question hung in the air, heavy with a child's fear of permanent loss. Margaret gently smoothed Sophia's hair. Some things can't be fixed exactly the way they were before. But that doesn't mean they can't be made better in a new way. As Sophia drifted off to sleep, Guardian and Hope tucked securely under each arm, Margaret remained seated on the edge of the bed. In her decades of fostering, she'd seen many outcomes. Families reunited, families permanently separated, and everything in between. It was too soon to know which path the Watsons would take. Downstairs, she found Riley still chatting with Harold and Jenny. She's special, that one, Margaret said quietly to Riley. But she's carrying more than a child should have to bear. Riley nodded, her eyes reflecting determination. That's why we all need to help lighten the load. The next morning brought an unexpected development. Dr. Chen called with news that Sophia's latest test results showed more complex health issues than initially identified. Her liver was showing signs of stress that would require additional treatment and monitoring. As Margaret hung up the phone, she gazed out at the backyard where Sophia sat alone on the swing, barely moving, lost in thought. The road ahead had just become longer and more complicated. But as she watched, Jenny approached hesitantly, offering Sophia a dandelion she'd picked. After a moment's pause, Sophia accepted the small yellow flower, a tiny gesture that, to Margaret's experienced eyes, represented the first fragile step toward healing. Chapter 9, Memory Boxes. This is for you, Margaret said, placing a shoebox covered in floral wrapping paper on Sophia's bed. Sometimes when we have big feelings that are hard to say out loud, it helps to put them somewhere safe. Sophia ran her fingers over the smooth paper. It had been 2 weeks since she'd come to stay with the Johnsons, and today would be her third supervised visit with her mother. "What do I put in it?" she asked. "Anything that feels important," Margaret explained. "Drawings, little treasures, memories. It becomes your own special place." Sophia nodded thoughtfully, already reaching for her crayons. Downstairs, Gabriella arrived early to prepare for the visit. "Emma's making real progress," she told Margaret in the kitchen. "She's attending all her therapy sessions, she's adjusted her work schedule, and she's been completely cooperative with our requirements." "And the father?" Margaret asked quietly, mindful of little ears that might be listening from the stairway. "Robert's in a residential treatment program," Gabriella replied. "He's facing legal consequences, but he's also genuinely working on his issues. It's too soon to know what that means for the family long term." The sound of the doorbell interrupted their conversation. Emma stood on the porch, clutching a small gift bag and looking both nervous and hopeful. "Mommy," Sophia's voice called out as she raced down the stairs, her previous hesitation momentarily forgotten. Emma knelt down, embracing her daughter with careful tenderness, as if she might break. "I've missed you so much, sweetheart." Under Gabriella's watchful eye, mother and daughter settled in the Johnsons' sunroom. Emma had brought a new picture book to read together, a story about a little bird finding its way home. "I have something to show you," Sophia said when they finished the book. She disappeared briefly, returning with her memory box and several drawings. Emma examined each one carefully. Colorful scenes of the Johnson house, a portrait of Jenny playing in the backyard, and a picture of Guardian and Hope sitting on what looked like a throne of pillows. "These are wonderful, Sophia," Emma said sincerely. "You're such a talented artist." Sophia hesitated, then pulled out one more drawing from the bottom of the stack. This one was different, darker, with heavy crayon strokes. It showed a small figure in bed, with a larger figure standing nearby holding what appeared to be a bottle and spoon. "This is from before," Sophia explained in a small voice, "when I didn't feel good after special medicine time." Emma's hands trembled as she took the drawing, but she didn't look away. This was her daughter's truth, painful as it was to witness. "I'm so sorry you went through that," Emma said, fighting to keep her voice steady. "It wasn't right, and it wasn't your fault." "Is Daddy still mad at me?" Sophia asked, eyes downcast. "Oh, Sophia, no." Emma gathered her daughter close. "Daddy isn't mad at you. He's getting help because he made mistakes that hurt you. We both did." As they continued talking, Sophia gradually shared more through her drawings, memories of good times and bad, fears and hopes, all expressed through crayon on paper. For the first time, Emma truly saw the world through her daughter's eyes. Meanwhile, across town, Officer Marcus Taylor sat in his patrol car outside the residential treatment center where Robert Watson was staying. He'd come to follow up on some questions, but found himself hesitating. The case had affected him more deeply than most. His phone rang. It was Riley Bennett. "I just wanted to check in," she said. "I visited Sophia yesterday. The Johnsons are wonderful, but she still has nightmares." "Dr. Chen called me this morning," Marcus replied. "Sophia's liver tests are still concerning. They want to run more comprehensive evaluations." A moment of heavy silence passed between them. "We did the right thing," Riley finally said, though her voice held a question. "We did," Marcus affirmed. "But sometimes doing the right thing doesn't feel like a victory, does it? It just feels necessary." Later that evening, as Margaret helped Sophia prepare for bed, she noticed the memory box had been placed carefully on the nightstand, now containing the drawings, a dandelion Jenny had given her, and a small photo of Emma that had been in the gift bag. "Did you have a good visit with your mom today?" Margaret asked gently. Sophia nodded, climbing under the covers. "She said she's learning new ways to be happy without medicine, and that maybe someday we can be a family again, but different than before." Margaret tucked the blankets around the little girl. "Your mom loves you very much, Sophia. She's working very hard to make things better." "I know," Sophia whispered, her eyes growing heavy. "I put that in my memory box, too." As Sophia drifted off to sleep, her hand resting protectively on her box of memories, Margaret noticed something new, a small smile on the child's face as she dreamed. A tiny victory, but significant nonetheless. Outside, the first stars appeared in the evening sky, silent witnesses to the slow, painful process of a family trying to find its way back from the darkness, or perhaps toward something new entirely. The family court building stood tall and imposing against the clear blue sky, its stone facade a stark contrast to the emotional turmoil taking place within its walls. Emma Watson sat rigid on a wooden bench in the hallway, her hands clasped so tightly her knuckles had turned white. 30 feet away, Robert waited near a water fountain, looking gaunt and subdued in a borrowed suit that hung too loosely on his frame. 1 month of sobriety had cleared his eyes, but deepened the lines on his face. This was the first time Emma had seen him since Sophia was placed with the Johnsons. "We're ready for you now," Gabriella announced, emerging from the courtroom. "Judge Winters will hear the status update on Sophia's case." As they filed into the courtroom, Emma and Robert carefully maintained their distance like planets orbiting the same sun but never drawing close. The bridge between them lay in ruins, damaged by choices that couldn't be undone. "All rise," the bailiff called as Judge Winters, a stern-faced woman with compassionate eyes, took her place at the bench. Dr. Chen was the first to testify, her medical expertise delivered in clear, careful terms. "Sophia's condition has stabilized, but we're still monitoring her liver function. The toxic exposure occurred over several months, and while children are remarkably resilient, there may be longer-term impacts we need to watch for." Emma bit her lip, fighting back tears. Each clinical word was a reminder of what her daughter had endured while she wasn't paying attention. Robert's testimony came next, his voice barely audible at times. "I've completed 30 days in residential treatment," he stated. "I've been attending daily AA meetings and therapy sessions. His voice broke. "I know what I did was unforgivable. I was trying to cope with losing my job, with feeling like a failure, and I made terrible decisions that hurt my daughter." Judge Winters observed him thoughtfully. "And what is your understanding of those decisions now, Mr. Watson?" Robert met her gaze directly. "I used alcohol and medications to keep Sophia quiet and manageable when I couldn't handle the responsibility of caring for her properly. I told myself it was just to help her sleep, but the truth is, I was being selfish. I put my needs before her safety." In the back of the courtroom, Officer Marcus and Riley sat together, witnesses to the unfolding legal proceedings. Riley leaned forward slightly, her focus unwavering. She had visited Sophia weekly since the placement, becoming a steady presence in the child's disrupted life. When it was Emma's turn to speak, she stood with a newfound steadiness. "Your Honor, I've made significant changes in the past month. I've adjusted my work schedule to part-time hours. I've been consistent with my depression treatment and therapy. I've completed 2 parenting classes and have 3 more scheduled." She took a deep breath. "I failed my daughter by not being present enough to see what was happening, but I am committed to becoming the mother she deserves." After all testimonies concluded, Judge Winters announced her decision. Sophia will remain with the Johnson family for now, with increased supervised visitation for Mrs. Watson. Mr. Watson's visitation will continue to be supervised and limited until he completes his treatment program, and the court sees evidence of sustained sobriety. As the hearing concluded, Emma and Robert found themselves alone in the hallway, the first time they'd been without observers since everything fell apart. "Emma, Robert began. "Don't," Emma interrupted, her voice tight with emotion. "Not yet. I'm not ready to hear your apologies." "That's fair," he said quietly. "But I want you to know I'm really trying to change." Emma looked at him, really looked at him. For the first time in months, the man she had married, the father of her child, now a stranger in so many ways. "So am I," she replied simply, "for Sophia's sake." As Emma turned to leave, Robert called after her. "How is she?" "Really?" Emma paused, one hand on the door. "She still carries those 2 teddy bears everywhere. She has nightmares sometimes. But she's drawing again, and last visit she laughed when I read to her." Her voice softened slightly. "She asked about you." The weight of that statement hung in the air between them, a tiny thread spanning the chasm that had opened in their family. Outside the courthouse, raindrops began to fall, gentle at first, then with increasing intensity. Emma stood under the overhang, watching the downpour create rivers along the sidewalk. Somewhere across town, Sophia was probably watching the same rain, perhaps from the window of her temporary bedroom, clutching guardian and hope to her chest. The road ahead would be long and uncertain. Some bridges, once fallen, could never be rebuilt the same way again. But perhaps, just perhaps, new paths could still be found. The therapist's office was painted a soothing sage green, with comfortable chairs and soft lighting designed to put clients at ease. For Emma Watson, however, no amount of calming decor could make these sessions easy. "Tell me about your mother," Dr. Eliza Morgan prompted gently. Emma twisted the tissue in her hands. 2 months had passed since Sophia had been placed with the Johnsons, and Emma had been diligently attending therapy twice weekly. "My mother was everything to me," Emma said softly. "When she died last year from cancer, it felt like the ground disappeared beneath my feet." She paused, staring at a painting of a gnarled tree on the wall. "I think that's when I started to disconnect. From Robert, from Sophia, from myself. Grief can do that." Dr. Morgan nodded. "It can uproot us completely. The irony is," Emma continued, her voice strengthening, "my mother was the one who taught me to be strong, to never show weakness. Keep going, she'd always say. So that's what I did. I kept going, working double shifts, pushing through the pain, never letting anyone see how much I was struggling." "Including yourself," Dr. Morgan observed. Emma nodded, the realization settling heavily. "I was so busy surviving that I couldn't see Sophia wasn't just living with a grieving mother. She was living with an absent one." Across town, in a sparse room at the New Beginnings Rehabilitation Center, Robert sat in a circle with 7 other men. The group therapy session had been intense, focusing on childhood experiences and their impact on adult behavior. "My father was an alcoholic," Robert said, his voice steady despite the emotion behind his words. "When I lost my job at the factory, I swore I wouldn't become him. But then I started drinking to numb the shame of unemployment, of watching Emma carry our family while I failed." He paused, a tear sliding down his cheek, the first he'd allowed himself since beginning treatment. "And then I became something even worse than my father. I used substances to control my own child, because I couldn't control myself." The group leader, a recovered addict named Michael, nodded solemnly. "Recognizing the cycle is the first step to breaking it, Robert. You can't change what happened, but you can ensure it never happens again." That evening at the Johnson house, a thunderstorm rolled through the neighborhood. The first crash of thunder sent Sophia scrambling from the dinner table, disappearing upstairs before anyone could react. Margaret found her huddled in the bedroom closet, trembling. Guardian and Hope clutched tightly to her chest. "The thunder can't hurt you, sweetheart," Margaret said softly, kneeling beside the closet door. "It's not the thunder," Sophia whispered, her eyes wide. "When there were storms at home, Daddy would get mad if I got scared. He'd say big girls don't cry about silly things like thunder." Margaret's heart ached at the revelation. "It's okay to be scared sometimes, Sophia. Everyone gets scared, even grown-ups." "Even Officer Marcus?" Sophia asked skeptically. "Even Officer Marcus," Margaret confirmed with a gentle smile. "Being brave doesn't mean you're never afraid. It means you face your fears, even when it's hard." Slowly, Sophia emerged from the closet, still clutching her bears. Together they sat by the window, counting the seconds between lightning and thunder until the storm passed. Later that week, during Emma's supervised visit, Sophia seemed unusually quiet. "Is everything okay, sweetheart?" Emma asked, concerned by her daughter's subdued demeanor. Sophia hesitated, then asked the question that had been weighing on her young heart. "When can I come home?" The simple question held such complexity that Emma felt momentarily breathless. Home. The concept seemed both concrete and elusive now. Their house still stood on Pinecrest Avenue, but could it truly be called home after all that had happened there? "I'm working very hard to make that happen," Emma answered honestly, "but it might take a little more time." Because you and Daddy are still sick? Sophia asked with the directness only a child could manage. Emma chose her words carefully. Your daddy and I are both getting help for our problems. Sometimes grown-ups need doctors for their hearts and minds, not just their bodies. Sophia nodded solemnly, digesting this information. Ms. Margaret says some trees have roots that go really deep, and even when a big storm comes, they don't fall down. That's true, Emma replied, struck by the wisdom in her daughter's words. I think we need deeper roots, Sophia concluded, returning to her coloring book. As Emma watched her daughter carefully select a green crayon, she realized that through all of this, Sophia had developed a wisdom beyond her years, an understanding that even the strongest family trees sometimes needed to expose their roots to truly heal. Outside the window, a robin landed on a branch, singing despite the gathering clouds. Nature's reminder that after every storm, life continues. Changed, perhaps, but persistent in its hope for better days ahead. What about right there? Harold Johnson pointed to a sturdy oak tree in the backyard, its thick branches spreading wide like welcoming arms. That spot gets morning sun but afternoon shade. It had been Margaret's idea, building a small treehouse as a project for Sophia and Jenny. Something to create together, a place that could be their own. What do you think, Sophia? Margaret asked, kneeling beside the quiet 6-year-old. Would you like to help design a treehouse? Sophia's eyes widened with interest, the most animation she'd shown in days. Ever since her last medical checkup, when Dr. Chen had scheduled additional tests for her liver function, Sophia had retreated further into herself. Can I draw it first? She asked softly. That's a wonderful idea. Margaret smiled, relieved to see a spark return to the child's eyes. Inside, at the kitchen table, Sophia bent over a large sheet of paper, crayon in hand. What emerged surprised everyone. Not a simple box, but a detailed design with stairs instead of a ladder, a small porch with railings, and most notably, large windows on all sides. That's quite the architect's drawing, Harold commented, genuinely impressed. I want big windows, Sophia explained seriously, so the light can always get in. Jenny bounced excitedly beside her. Can we paint it blue? Blue is the best color. For the first time since arriving at the Johnsons, Sophia took the initiative in a conversation. What if we paint it rainbow? Then everybody gets their favorite color. Jenny's face lit up. That's even better. Over the next week, the treehouse project transformed the household. Harold and Margaret worked on the basic structure, while the girls helped sand wood, select colors, and design small details. Riley visited on her days off, helping to paint window frames and bring supplies. Even Officer Marcus stopped by on Saturday, arriving in casual clothes with a toolkit, and spending hours helping Harold install the small porch. During her supervised visits, Emma noticed the change in her daughter. Sophia eagerly shared updates about the treehouse progress, showing her mother detailed drawings of what it would look like when finished. I've never seen her so excited about something, Emma told Gabriella, as they watched Sophia explaining her design to Margaret across the yard. Creative projects can be incredibly healing, Gabriella replied. It gives children a sense of control when so much in their lives feels unpredictable. Robert called me yesterday, Emma said quietly, still watching her daughter. He's completed the residential portion of his treatment program. He's in a halfway house now, still attending daily meetings. Gabriella nodded. I received the update from his counselor. He's making good progress, but there's still a long road ahead for all of you. I know, Emma sighed. I'm still angry with him, but I'm also starting to understand how we both contributed to what happened, in different ways. But still, the treehouse neared completion as June bloomed into July. A small celebration was planned for the grand opening, cupcakes, lemonade, and ribbon cutting with oversized scissors that made Sophia giggle when Riley presented them. The morning of the celebration, however, brought unexpected news. Dr. Chen called Margaret with Sophia's latest test results. We're still seeing concerning levels of liver enzymes, she explained. I'd like to schedule a procedure to get a clearer picture of what we're dealing with. Margaret's heart sank as she hung up the phone. How could she tell Sophia that her day of celebration would be overshadowed by more medical concerns? But when the moment came to share the news, it was Sophia herself who surprised them all. "Is it because of the special medicine Daddy gave me?" she asked matter-of-factly. "The kind that made my tummy hurt?" Margaret nodded gently. "Yes, sweetheart. The doctors need to check if that medicine caused any problems that need fixing." Sophia considered this with a seriousness no 6-year-old should have to possess. Then, with determination in her young voice, she declared, "We should still have the treehouse party, because good things and hard things sometimes happen on the same day." The wisdom in her words left Margaret momentarily speechless. That afternoon, surrounded by her growing circle of support, the Johnsons, Jenny, Riley, Marcus, Emma, and even Gabriella, Sophia cut the rainbow ribbon stretched across the treehouse entrance. As everyone cheered, she smiled, a genuine, unguarded smile that reached her eyes. Inside the treehouse, sunlight streamed through the large windows, casting rainbow patterns from the colored glass wind chimes Jenny had insisted on hanging in each corner. It was beautiful, safe, and solid. Everything Sophia's life had not been in recent months. As the celebration continued below, Emma climbed up to join her daughter, who was sitting quietly on the small bench built into the wall. "What are you thinking about?" Emma asked, settling beside her. Sophia looked around the treehouse, then back at her mother. "I was thinking that sometimes you have to build new things when the old ones don't work anymore." Emma felt tears prick her eyes at the simple profundity of her daughter's observation. "You're absolutely right, Sophia. And you know what? I think we're all learning how to be builders now." Below them, life continued. Laughter, conversation, the simple joy of a summer day. But in that quiet moment, mother and daughter sat together in a new space filled with light, both aware that the most important rebuilding was still to come. Meadowbrook Children's Hospital looked different in the early morning light, less intimidating somehow, as the sunrise cast a golden glow across its brick facade. Sophia clutched Guardian and Hope as she walked through the automatic doors, Margaret Johnson holding one hand, Emma the other. Today was the day of Sophia's procedure, a liver biopsy that would tell the doctors exactly how much damage had been done by the months of inappropriate substances. "Remember what Dr. Chen explained?" Emma said gently as they rode the elevator to the 3rd floor. "You'll be asleep the whole time, and when you wake up, it'll be all over." Sophia nodded solemnly. "And then they'll know how to fix my liver." In the waiting room, they found an unexpected gathering forming. Riley arrived with a small backpack of activities for after the procedure. Officer Marcus appeared in civilian clothes, carrying a children's book about a brave little tiger. Even Jenny and Harold had come, Jenny proudly presenting Sophia with a friendship bracelet she'd made especially for the occasion. "Quite the support team you have here," Dr. Chen remarked warmly as she came to greet them. Sophia surveyed the room with wondering eyes. "They all came for me." "Of course we did, sweetheart," Riley said, kneeling to Sophia's level. "That's what friends do. They show up when things get scary." As the nurses prepared to take Sophia to pre-op, a commotion at the waiting room entrance drew everyone's attention. Robert Watson stood hesitantly in the doorway, clutching a small gift bag and looking uncertain. "I asked Gabriella if I could be here," he explained, his eyes seeking Emma's. "She cleared it with the court, but if it's not okay with you, I'll go." A tense silence filled the room. Emma's expression tightened, and Marcus subtly shifted his position, protective instincts activating. It was Sophia who broke the standoff. "Daddy?" Her voice was small, tinged with confusion and a trace of lingering fear. Robert's eyes filled with tears as he knelt down, maintaining a respectful distance. "Hi, Sophia. I wanted to be here for your procedure, to show you that I care about you getting better." Emma watched her daughter's face carefully, ready to intervene at any sign of distress. But Sophia simply studied her father with those perceptive eyes that seemed to see straight through to the truth of things. "Are you still taking the medicine that makes you angry?" she asked directly. Robert shook his head, a tear escaping down his cheek. "No, Sophia. I'm not drinking alcohol anymore. I'm working very hard to get better, just like you're working to get better." Sophia considered this, then nodded once. Okay, you can stay. The adults in the room exchanged glances of surprise and respect for the child's composure. Emma felt a complicated mixture of emotions, residual anger at Robert, fierce protectiveness towards Sophia, but also a reluctant acknowledgement that her daughter needed to see both parents supporting her today. When it was time for Sophia to go to pre-op, she surprised everyone again by asking, "Can Mommy and Daddy both come until I fall asleep?" Dr. Chen looked to Gabriella, who had arrived moments earlier. Gabriella gave a subtle nod. This deviation from the court-ordered supervision seemed appropriate under the circumstances. Just until the anesthesia, then they'll join everyone in the waiting room, Dr. Chen agreed. As Emma and Robert walked on either side of Sophia's gurney, neither spoke directly to the other. Their focus remained entirely on their daughter, who looked suddenly so small in the hospital bed with her teddy bears tucked beside her. "I'm a little scared," Sophia admitted as the anesthesiologist prepared his equipment. "That's okay," Emma soothed, stroking her hair. "Remember what Ms. Margaret said about being brave? It doesn't mean you're not scared," Sophia recited. "It means you do it anyway." Robert watched this exchange silently, the full weight of what he'd done, and what he'd nearly destroyed, visible in his expression. "Sophia," he said softly, "I need to tell you something important." He took a deep breath. "What happened wasn't your fault. The special medicine, that was wrong. I was wrong. And I'm so sorry." It was the first time he'd apologized directly to his daughter, acknowledging the harm he'd caused in terms she could understand. The simplicity and sincerity of the words hung in the air as the anesthesia began to take effect. Sophia's eyelids grew heavy, but she managed one last response. "Ms. Margaret says everyone deserves a second chance if they really want to change." As their daughter drifted into sleep, Emma and Robert stood on opposite sides of the bed, connected by the small figure between them, yet separated by a gulf of broken trust and painful history. In the waiting room, time moved with excruciating slowness. Emma sat with Margaret, occasionally pacing. Robert kept to himself in a corner, thumbing through a recovery pamphlet without really seeing the words. Riley and Marcus spoke quietly near the coffee machine, their professional roles long since blended with personal investment in Sophia's well-being. When Dr. Chen finally appeared in the doorway, her expression was unreadable. Everyone rose simultaneously, united in their concern for the little girl who had somehow brought them all together. "The procedure went well," Dr. Chen began, and a collective breath of relief filled the room. "Sophia is in recovery now, but we need to talk about the results." Recovery came in small moments like individual stitches forming a pattern. 2 weeks after her procedure, Sophia sat cross-legged on her bed at the Johnsons', watching Margaret's hands work methodically on a colorful quilt spread across their laps. "Each piece has its own story," Margaret explained, guiding Sophia's fingers over the various fabrics. "This blue one was from Jenny's first day of school dress. This flowered piece was from a curtain in my mother's house." "What's this one?" Sophia asked, pointing to a square of soft pink material. "That," Margaret smiled, "is from the blanket your mother brought for you on your first night here. She wanted you to have something from home." Sophia's eyes widened in surprise. "Really?" Margaret nodded, threading her needle with practiced ease. "Everyone who loves you has contributed something to this quilt. It's a way of showing that even separate pieces can come together to make something beautiful and strong." The liver biopsy had confirmed Dr. Chen's concerns. Sophia's liver showed damage from the months of inappropriate substances. The good news, however, was that with proper care and monitoring, children's livers had remarkable healing abilities. She would need regular checkups and a special diet for some time, but the prognosis for full recovery was encouraging. That afternoon, Emma arrived for her now unsupervised visit, carrying a small potted plant with bright yellow flowers. "For your windowsill," she explained as Sophia examined it with interest. "It's called a sunshine daisy. They're very hardy. They can survive even if you forget to water them sometimes, and they always turn toward the light." Sophia seemed to understand the metaphor in her mother's words. "Like people who get stronger after hard times?" Emma's eyes misted. Exactly like that. They spent the afternoon working on the quilt together, Emma's nursing training evident in her neat, precise stitches. As they worked, Emma shared news from the outside world. "I've been taking those parenting classes Gabriella recommended," she said, "and I've joined a support group for families healing from substance issues. It helps to talk with other people who understand." "What about Daddy?" Sophia asked cautiously. Emma took a measured breath. It had been 3 months since the night Sophia called 911, and the family's journey had taken many unexpected turns. "Your father is doing well in his recovery program. He's found a job at a hardware store, and he's still attending his meetings every day." She hesitated, then added, "He's been asking about having more regular visits with you, once you're feeling stronger." Sophia nodded thoughtfully, her fingers tracing the outline of a quilt square. "I think I'd like that. Not right away, but soon." That evening, as Margaret was helping Sophia prepare for bed, the doorbell rang. Harold's voice called up the stairs moments later. "Sophia, there's a special delivery for you." Curious, Sophia descended the stairs in her pajamas to find Riley and Officer Marcus in the living room, along with Gabriella and, to her surprise, several neighbors from Pinecrest Avenue. "What's happening?" she asked, suddenly shy at the gathering. Riley stepped forward with a wrapped package. "We heard about your quilt project and, well, we thought you might like to add a few more pieces to the story." Inside the package was a collection of fabric squares, each with a note attached explaining its significance. There was a piece of a police department t-shirt from Marcus, a square from Riley's favorite scarf, material from Gabriella's office curtains, and several contributions from neighbors who had learned about Sophia's situation and wanted to help. "We all want to be part of your healing journey," Riley explained, her voice gentle. Sophia surveyed the room full of people. Some she knew well, others barely at all, and something shifted in her young heart. The world, which had seemed so frightening and unpredictable, suddenly felt a little safer, a little more hopeful. Later that week, Robert arrived for his supervised visit, bearing his own contribution to the quilt, a square cut from the shirt he'd worn on his first day of sobriety. "It reminds me of the day I decided to change," he explained quietly, as Gabriella observed from nearby. "The day I realized what I almost lost forever." Sophia accepted the fabric, studying her father's face with that penetrating gaze that seemed to see straight to the truth of things. "Are you still sad about losing your job at the factory?" she asked directly. Robert seemed taken aback by the question, but answered honestly, "Sometimes. But I'm learning that losing a job doesn't mean losing my worth as a person, or as your dad." As July turned to August, the quilt neared completion. It had grown beyond its original design, incorporating more stories, more connections than anyone had anticipated. Margaret helped Sophia add one final square in the center, a drawing the little girl had created, carefully transferred onto fabric, showing a small house with big windows and a family standing outside. "Is that your treehouse?" Emma asked when she saw it. Sophia shook her head. "No, it's our new home, wherever that will be." The simple statement carried profound meaning for everyone who heard it. Home was no longer just the house on Pinecrest Avenue. Home would be wherever healing continued, wherever safety prevailed, wherever love was genuine. On the day the quilt was finally completed, Margaret hosted a small celebration. As Sophia proudly displayed the finished project, a colorful tapestry of broken pieces made whole through connection, Emma and Robert found themselves standing side by side for the first time without tension. "We did this to her," Robert said quietly. "But look what she's doing with it." Emma nodded, watching their daughter explain each quilt square to Jenny and Riley. "She's rebuilding. Maybe we all are." The road ahead would still have challenges. Trust, once broken, didn't mend as easily as fabric. But as Sophia wrapped herself in her quilt of many stories, the gathered community silently pledged to continue showing up, one stitch at a time. 4 months to the day after Sophia's fateful 911 call, a small moving truck pulled up in front of a modest duplex on Maple Street. The morning sun cast long shadows as Emma carried boxes from the truck to the front door, where Sophia stood holding Guardian and Hope, surveying what would be their new home. "What do you think?" Emma asked, setting down a box labeled kitchen. Sophia took a careful step inside, her eyes widening as she took in the sunny living room with its large windows. "It has light," she said approvingly. "Lots of light." The past months had brought changes no one could have predicted. After Sophia's procedure, Dr. Chen had confirmed what they'd suspected. The special medicine Robert had given her was a dangerous combination of alcohol and crushed medications, which had caused the liver damage she was now recovering from. The revelation had been the final piece that made everything clear. Robert had faced legal consequences, but had also committed fully to his recovery, accepting responsibility without excuses. Emma had completed her parenting classes and therapy program, creating a stable environment for Sophia's potential return. And now, after careful evaluation by Gabriella and the family court, Sophia was coming home. Not to the house on Pinecrest Avenue with its painful memories, but to a new beginning. "Your room is this way," Emma guided, leading Sophia down a short hallway. "I thought maybe we could paint it whatever color you'd like." The bedroom was small but filled with light from a large window overlooking a backyard with an old oak tree. Sophia went straight to the window, pressing her hands against the glass. "Could we hang a bird feeder in that tree?" she asked. "Ms. Margaret taught me about different birds." "Absolutely," Emma smiled, her heart full at this simple sign of her daughter looking toward the future. The doorbell rang, and Sophia ran to answer it, her earlier hesitation forgotten. Margaret and Harold stood on the porch, Harold carrying Sophia's quilt folded carefully in his arms. "We thought you might want this for your new bed," Margaret said, embracing Sophia warmly. Behind them came Riley, carrying a housewarming plant, and Marcus with a toolkit, for any fixing up that needs doing. Jenny bounced excitedly, eager to see Sophia's new room. Even Gabriella arrived, clipboard in hand but smiling more freely than she had in months. As Emma welcomed everyone inside, another car pulled up to the curb. Robert stepped out, pausing uncertainly by the gate. Emma noticed him first. Their eyes met across the yard, a silent communication passing between them. Not forgiveness exactly, but acknowledgement of how far they had both come. "Daddy," Sophia called, spotting him from the doorway. She ran down the path and stopped just short of him, suddenly shy. Robert knelt down to her level, respecting her space. "Hi, Sunshine. I came to help you get settled, if that's okay." Sophia nodded, then reached for his hand. "Come see my room. It has a big window." Inside, the small house filled with conversation and laughter as everyone helped unpack. Emma observed the scene with quiet amazement. This makeshift community that had formed around her daughter, around their family's brokenness and slow healing. As the afternoon progressed, Margaret pulled Emma aside in the kitchen. "You've done remarkable work these past months," she said, squeezing Emma's hand. "Sophia is lucky to have a mother who fought so hard to make things right." "I couldn't have done it without all of you," Emma replied honestly. "I never knew how much I needed community until I almost lost everything." Later, as the gathering began to disperse, Sophia tugged on Riley's sleeve. "Can I use your phone?" Riley looked surprised but handed it over. "Sure. Who do you want to call?" "Officer Marcus," Sophia said with determination, scrolling through Riley's contacts until she found his number. Marcus, who had just stepped outside to his car, answered on the first ring. "Riley, did you forget something?" "It's not Riley, it's me, Sophia," the little girl announced proudly. "I wanted to call you myself to tell you something important." "What's that, Sophia?" Marcus asked, his voice warm. "I started school yesterday," she said excitedly. "And when the teacher asked what we want to be when we grow up, I said I want to be someone who helps people, like you and Ms. Riley." On the porch, Emma watched her daughter chatting animatedly on the phone. The same child who months ago had been too afraid to speak above a whisper, now confidently sharing her dreams. As twilight settled over Maple Street, the new house gradually quieted. Robert had left with a promise to visit again on Saturday. Margaret and Harold had extended an open invitation for Sophia to visit the treehouse any time. Riley and Marcus had made plans to attend Sophia's school presentation the following week. Emma tucked Sophia into her new bed, the patchwork quilt spread over her, Guardian and Hope nestled on either side. "Are you happy here?" Emma asked softly, brushing a strand of hair from her daughter's forehead. Sophia nodded sleepily. "It feels safe," she murmured. As Emma turned to leave, Sophia's voice stopped her at the door. "Mommy, I'm glad I called 911 that day." Emma turned back, her heart full. "I'm glad you did too, sweetheart." "I was so scared," Sophia continued, her eyes growing heavy. "But Ms. Riley said sometimes being brave means asking for help when you need it." "She's absolutely right," Emma whispered. From the small table beside Sophia's bed, a child's telephone, a gift from Riley, sat next to a framed photograph of all the people who had become their extended family through this journey. In the gentle quiet of the room, Emma watched as her daughter drifted off to sleep, no longer afraid of what tomorrow might bring. The path forward would have its challenges, but one thing was certain: Sophia's voice had been heard. And in being heard, she had found not only rescue but also a strength and community that would carry her through whatever came next. This time her voice was not a cry for help, but a testament to hope. Hope that some broken things, when mended with love and truth, could become stronger at the broken places. Outside, the stars emerged one by one in the darkening sky, silent witnesses to the small miracle of a family finding its way home, not to where they had been, but to where they were meant to be.